we have to talk about the massive elephant in the room that just got called out by the one man in Nigeria who is never afraid to speak truth to power, even if that power is his own friend.
I was coming out of a hotel and I saw what looked like a film set. And I said, oh, they're shooting a film. That was on the grounds of this hotel. And a young man detached himself from the actors, came over and greeted me, very polite, very nice young man. And I said, are you shooting somebody? I said, I'm just joking. Are you shooting a film? He said, no. And I looked around. There was nearly a whole battalion occupying the grounds of that hotel, in Ikoyi, right here. So I got back in my car and I asked the driver who that young man was. And he told me. And I saw this SWAT team, a mixture. They were at least heavily armed, at least some 15 or so heavily armed to the teeth security personnel. Looked sufficient to take over a small country, neighboring city like Benin.
If you thought the VIP security ban was affecting everyone equally, you need to pull up a chair. Because Nobel Laureate Professor Wole Soyinka has just exposed a level of contradiction that screams Animal Farm, where some animals are more equal than others. The headline trending everywhere today, Wednesday, December 10, 2025, is that Soyinka has openly criticized the battalion-level security detail attached to the president's son, Seyi Tinubu. But he didn't just criticize it, he mocked it in a way that exposes the sheer lawlessness of our current situation. While the president is telling VIPs to give up their police escorts to save the country, his own son is allegedly moving around Lagos with an army that looks like a field set. We are broadcasting this special report to break down the bombshell statement made by the literary icon at the 20th Wole Soyinka for Investigative Journalism WSCIJ Awards held in Lagos just yesterday. The atmosphere was celebratory, honoring the best in journalism. But when Soyinka took the microphone, the mood shifted from celebration to a serious reality check. He narrated a personal encounter he had recently at a hotel in Ikoyi, Lagos. He said he was coming out of the hotel when he saw a scene that confused him. He initially thought a movie was being shot because of the sheer number of armed men occupying the grounds. He described seeing about 15 security officials, heavily armed to the teeth, looking like they were ready to invade a small country. Then came the shocker. A young man detached himself from this battalion and came over to greet the professor politely. It was only after the greeting that Soyinka asked his driver who was that, and was told it was Seyi Tinubu. Soyinka's reaction to this discovery is what has set the internet on fire. He recounted how he immediately picked up his phone and called the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, to ask if it is now standard procedure for the child of a head of state to move around with an army. His exact words were stinging. "Do you mean that the child of the head of state goes around with an army for his protection? I couldn't believe it." This is where the lawlessness in our headline comes into play. You have to remember the context of December 2025. Just a few weeks ago, in late November, President Bola Tinubu issued a stern directive ordering the immediate withdrawal of police officers attached to very important persons, VIPs, across the country. The rationale was clear and commendable. The police are overstretched. Insecurity is rising in the north and parts of the south, and we need every officer on the streets protecting the common man, not carrying handbags for politicians. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, even set up a special task force to enforce this ban, and we have seen reports of officers being withdrawn from businessmen and traditional rulers. So here is the contradiction that Soyinka is highlighting. How can the president ban VIP escorts for the rest of the country, while his own son, who is a private citizen and holds no constitutional office, is moving around with a security detail that rivals that of a governor? Soyinka didn't mince words. He said, children should know their place. They are not potentates, they are not heads of state. He argued that such an excessive deployment is a misuse of national assets. He even threw a sarcastic jab that perfectly captured the absurdity of the situation. Referring to the recent instability in the neighboring Benin Republic, Soyinka joked that President Tinubu didn't need to send the Nigerian Air Force or military to intervene. He should just send Seyi Tinubu and his escorts because they have enough firepower to quell an uprising. This statement is heavy because it comes from Wole Soyinka. Remember, Soyinka has been a supporter of Tinubu in many respects, or at least a fair critic who refused to judge him prematurely. For him to come out now, in December 2025, and publicly embarrass the First Family over this issue suggests that the optics have become indefensible. It reinforces the narrative that the sacrifices the government is asking Nigerians to make, cutting costs, enduring hardship, giving up security privileges, do not apply to the inner circle. It paints a picture of a do as I say, not as I do administration. The film's set description is particularly damaging. In a time when Nigerians are complaining about the cost of governance, seeing a convoy of 15 armed guards for one individual who is not an elected official feels like a slap in the face. Who pays for those officers? Who pays for their logistics, their fueling, their allowances? It is the same taxpayer who is being told to tighten their belt. Soyinka warned that this kind of behavior undermines the security architecture of the nation. Every officer guarding Seyi Tinubu in Ikoyi is an officer who is not fighting bandits in Zamfara or kidnappers in Kaduna. It's a question of priorities. We also have to look at the reaction from the presidency, or the lack thereof. As of this morning, there has been silence. How do you defend this? Do you say the president's son is a high-risk target? Perhaps. But does he need a battalion? Even the children of US presidents don't move with this level of overt militarization unless they are in a war zone. The visibility of the power display is what irks the public. It feels like intimidation. It feels like the return of the military-era mentality, where proximity to power grants you absolute dominance over the public space. This is a conversation we need to have. And please, before we continue, if you want to keep getting the real news without the sugarcoating, hit that like button right now. It helps us grow. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss any Nigerian news. We are watching the convoys and we are watching the villa. Soyinka's call to the NSA, Nuhu Ribadu, is also significant. It shows that he tried to address this through official channels first. He asked, "Is this official?" The fact that he is now speaking out publicly suggests he didn't get a satisfactory answer. It implies that the security chiefs are enabling this extravagance. It raises the question, is the president aware of the extent of his son's convoy, or is this happening without his direct knowledge? Given that the president just ordered a reduction in convoys for ministers to 3 cars, seeing his son with a massive entourage makes a mockery of that directive. The streets are talking, and the sentiment is clear. People are calling it lawlessness because it violates the spirit of the president's own laws. If a VIP ban is in place, it should start from Aso Rock. Leadership is by example. If the president's family cannot model the austerity and modesty they preach, how can they expect the average politician or businessman to comply? It creates a breeding ground for resentment. We also have to touch on the broader implications for the 2027 elections, which are starting to loom on the horizon. Seyi Tinubu is becoming a central figure in this administration, often seen at high-level meetings and interventions. This prince of the Niger persona, reinforced by heavy security, alienates the youth demographic that the APC desperately needs. Soyinka's critique, "Children should know their place," is a voice echoing what many Nigerians whisper. They voted for Bola Tinubu, not a dynasty. So, as we digest this news, the question remains, will the president listen to his old friend? Will we see a reduction in this battalion? Or will the government double down and claim it is necessary for national security? Soyinka has thrown the challenge. He has exposed the hypocrisy. Now the ball is in the president's court. I want to know what you think. Is Wole Soyinka right to call this out as excessive? Or do you think the president's son deserves this level of protection given the security situation in the country? Is it lawlessness or is it necessity? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.